Welcome back to Will, A Wonderful World. Last time, we found the connection between good old police Lieutenant Kong, and Jimmy, who discovered playing porn games in VR isn't such a great idea when you have a roommate. And we found a teensy bit of our dear lieutenant's mysterious past. Just a teensy bit. We have a solo letter from Alicia. Probably about her cross-dressing friend that she met in Little Lamb Billy. And we also have 2 letters in the box.
부처님, 나도 좀 도와줘요. 젠장, 어떻게 이럴 수가?
Kang Baekya and Gyeongmin are intertwined again. So let's take a look at both of these. Alicia's and our dynamic duo. Let's start with Alicia. There was a quiet street in Hong Kong. There was a quieter alley on that quiet street. At the end of the alley, there was a coffee shop with a sign in the shape of a maple leaf. Inside the shop sat its owner, who had a peculiar taste in clothes, at least in the opinion of many. I still vividly remember the first time I had met him. He was wearing a pair of red high heels, a pair of skin-tight black leather pants, and a lavish, fluffy fur coat. I really love this guitar. All the tracks in this game are, except for the opening title song, I believe, are royalty free. At least that's what my copyright claims on YouTube say. And if that's the case, I really have to commend Wang Miaoyi's taste in background music. This is like the kind of stuff that I could listen to over and over again. Anyway, he had always told us to call him Mama. He still identified as a man, but preferred dressing as a woman. We all make our choices, and he understood more than most that being different need not lead to loneliness. Mama had saved my life. Not only had he saved me when I was being harassed by a pervert, he even let me work in his coffee shop. And he paid me 3,000 Hong Kong dollars a month. It wasn't much in Hong Kong, but I got to live in the coffee shop so that I could save up most of my salary and send it back to my brother back in Mexico. That's how that happened. 3,000 Hong Kong dollars, I'm trying to do the math real quick here, is like a little under $40, $400, sorry, a month. So she got to do a decent living. Considering how much the cost of shelter is. Seriously, living space in Hong Kong is not cheap. I hoped it could help pay for school. I'm sorry to tell you this, Alicia, but his profile says education. Barely any. There were a few other misfits like me who Mama had taken under his wing. Hang, who could never tell ketchup apart from jalapeno sauce. Raja, who couldn't help singing whenever he picked up a goblet. Jack, who would always wipe the table twice. We all had different color skin, and we didn't speak each other's languages, but we had all been learning from each other as well. We would often talk to each other in English, Cantonese, Mandarin, and Spanish all at once. Miraculously, we usually managed to understand each other pretty well. We always had a great time together. We shared the same bedroom with 2 bunk beds. Jack slept on my top bunk, and Hang and Raja slept in the other one. Jack was only 15. He had curly blonde hair and a pair of clear blue eyes. Carlos was a few years younger than him. When we had been in the orphanage, he and I slept in a bunk bed like this too. That was why I'd like to stare at the top bunk before I fell asleep, and imagine that it was a 15-year-old Carlos sleeping up there. However, the peaceful days did not last for too long. Only Jack and I were in the shop that day. My nice guitar music stopped. He had just taken the trash out the back door. Moments later, I heard the muffled sound of fighting and yelling in the back. I ran out of the back door and saw a couple of tall, strong men pinning Jack to the ground, tying his hands and feet behind his back. Jack's lips were bleeding and he seemed to be unconscious. I wanted to run back upstairs to find Raja. I knew he was sleeping in the bedroom. But before I could, someone had caught me from behind. Then my face was covered with a foul-smelling piece of white cloth. When I woke up, it was already deep into the night. Jack and I were locked inside what seemed to be a small warehouse. Jack woke up at almost the same time as me. We both looked out of the window, and we could see the blinking neon lights of a busy Melody Hall. If I remembered correctly, there was an auction house opposite Melody Hall. Mama used to tell us that the auction house on the street was not really legitimate. Legendary paintings that had gone missing. Rare ore that had been illegally smuggled in. The frozen sperm of dead movie stars. Excuse me? The frozen sperm of dead movie stars? Is that a thing? Is that a thing? Ancient mummies of an undetermined age. Panda bears. How come panda bears gets a dictionary entry but not the frozen sperm of dead movie stars? This is important. The giant panda are an endangered mammal whose only natural habitat is in southwest China. There are fewer than 2,000 giant pandas living in the wild nowadays. Because of their highly valuable status, gifting or leasing pandas to a foreign country has become a unique diplomatic operation for China, the so-called panda diplomacy. The earliest such transactions could be traced back to 685 AD, when Empress Consort Wu of the Tang Dynasty gifted 2 pandas to Japanese Emperor Tenmu, along with 50 panda hides. Ah, yes. Panda diplomacy. Here's 2 living ones and 70 dead ones. We come in peace. Even exotic-looking young boys and girls. No prizes for guessing why they're here then. As long as there was a buyer, there was nothing they wouldn't sell. We couldn't stay here. I'd been through this once. This time, I felt calm. I had to get myself out of here, and I would take Jack with me too. There was only one guard in the hallway. I slammed on the door to get him to come over. I told him that Jack had stopped breathing. He didn't think too much of it. Perhaps because he thought we were just a couple of kids. So he opened the door and crashed down next to Jack, who was playing dead. When he reached out to feel Jack's breath, I pulled the gun out of his waistband and pushed it against the back of his head. Then we gagged his mouth, tied his hands and feet behind him, and locked him inside the room before we snuck downstairs. We didn't run into anybody on our way down to the reception desk. Just when I was about to celebrate our good fortune, someone yelled at us from behind. I turned around and saw a sleepy man who was holding a mug. He rubbed his eyes and slammed the mug onto the reception desk when he saw our faces. The alarm went off. I grabbed Jack's hand and we started running towards the port as fast as we could. 4, maybe 5 guys came after us from the auction house. There were lots of warehouses and small roads near the port that made up a complex maze. We had to play cat and mouse with our chasers before we could find a secure hiding place. At the southwest corner of the port, there was a recycling center. The center had a fenced-in lot that had piles of garbage in it. Only a couple of overtime workers were operating the crane. They would lift the dumpster high up and then dump everything into the lot. There were many extra-large dumpsters outside the lot. Jack and I had split up earlier, and I waved at Jack from a distance to come over. The dumpster was empty. "Stop hiding! We saw you!" "I'm over here!" I tried to draw attention to myself. They opened the cover of the dumpster. I walked out from the cargo container not too far behind them. I tried to distract them. However, they had already opened the dumpster cover and seen Jack hiding inside. They didn't tie us up to avoid attracting too much attention. Instead, they surrounded us and marched us toward the auction house. If we didn't follow their orders, the guns in their waistbands would make us regret it. I fell into a deep despair. Jack must have been so frightened too. I looked at him, but for a moment I thought I must have been mistaken. I thought I had just caught him smiling. We were close enough to see the auction house when one of the guards' phones rang. Everyone was temporarily distracted by the phone, including me. But a gunshot interrupted the ringing. A guard had already fallen down. A bullet had just gone through his head. Jack had just shot him with a smile on his face. He had somehow taken a gun from one of the guards. He then turned around and shot the second guard right in his chest. He didn't waste any of the bullets. It was almost like magic. Soon, all 5 guards were lying on the ground. Jack looked at me with a casual expression on his face. "Alicia, let's get out of here." I was still in shock at what had just happened. And before I could say okay, I heard another gunshot from further away, and then a splashing sound nearby. Jack dropped to his knees and then slowly collapsed. Bright red liquid was oozing out from a small hole in the middle of his forehead. The young man with the mug was standing behind us at a distance. Only this time, he was carrying a gun instead of a mug. He started walking slowly towards us. I held my hands to my head and dropped to the ground, sobbing. "Heavenly Father, why on earth would you let this happen to us? What have we done wrong?" Alright, well, Alicia's letter isn't tied to anyone. So we just have to switch events in the letter itself. Something that occurs to me is that this game has already shown that it is not chronological. Whatever's happening to Alicia now is happening before whatever is currently happening to Carlos. For obvious reasons. The major point being that Carlos is no longer younger than 15. Unless Alicia got sent back in a time warp in that ship. And That makes me wonder if Jack, with his curly blonde hair and clear blue eyes, is actually another character that we've met that has curly blonde hair and blue eyes. I really want to know why the Frozen Sperm of Dead movie stars does not get a dictionary entry. Anyway, let's begin this. Okay, we have 4 events to change here. Okay. The easiest thing is to make sure that the dumpster is empty, so that's why I'm putting that at the bottom. And if Alicia draws attention to herself, then before they say stop hiding, we saw you. That means that the stop hiding, we saw you, will be responding to her. So let's give this sequence of events a try. We huddled together inside the dumpster and held each other's hands. It stank around us, but we couldn't care less. We were only praying that we wouldn't get discovered by the men outside. It reminded me of the time when my parents were killed. Carlos and I had been hiding inside of a small closet that felt just like this dumpster. My 3-year-old brother was still asleep. He didn't even notice what had been going on outside. But I witnessed my parents being gunned down through a gap between the closet doors. Damn it! Where are those bastards? A curse pulled me back from my memories. Fortunately, their voices seemed to be moving away from us. But before long, the dumpster started to shake. It seemed to be moving, and then it tilted. We were dumped out of it, along with the other trash, and fell onto the piles of garbage on the lot of the recycling center. Over there! They're over there! The girl with the purple dress! I saw her! We were discovered. Then we were captured before we could run too far. We were brought back to the auction house. What was going to happen to us? Well, that was a good try. But pointless. I wonder if Jack does have to kill people. And the good ending is that he's not killed. Let's try having Alicia draw attention to herself after the dumpster is empty. If they're gonna catch her anyway. I walked out from behind the cargo container not far away and tried to distract them. However, they had already opened the dumpster cover. There's no one inside! You fool! Go get the girl! They tied me up again and went back to look for Jack for a long time. They couldn't find him anywhere though. In the end, they decided to just take me back first. On the way, I saw a shadow from the corner of my eye. I looked up. A huge dumpster had been lifted up and emptied onto the lot of the recycling center. I also noticed a small body roll out together with the garbage. None of the guards were aware of it. They never realized that the person they had been looking for was right under their notice. Their noses was right under their noses. Jack had always reminded me of my brother. I would often change my shift to the same ones as him. Unlike Carlos, Jack never talked too much. However, I would still try to chat with him. After a while, we started to talk more and more with each other, though he rarely mentioned anything about himself. Once, I accidentally saw a horrifying burn scar on his back when he was changing. He must have a story that he didn't want to think about. Another time, I had asked him what he would like to become when he was older. He pondered for a while and said, "A policeman. Or maybe a doctor." The look on his face was almost like he had been looking at an ocean of blossoming flowers. And he had been enchanted by the hypnotizing scent of the flowers. The warm summer breeze was kissing his exquisite blonde hair, and the glowing sunlight was shining inside his sky-blue eyes. He almost looked like an angel to me at that moment. I knew he was not just saying that. He had a lot of books. When he wasn't working, he would always be reading in the bedroom. Even when he was on a shift, he would sit behind the bar and read when there were not too many customers. He spent all of his earnings on books. Although I didn't think one could be a policeman or a doctor through only self-learning. Still, I believed that Jack, my little angel, would be able to do it. Because I believed that if he did his best, his dream would come true. Alright, well, it turns out the best ending was saving Jack. But Alicia's still taken, and that must be why Carlos suddenly stops receiving letters from her. We've got 2 more letters here. For some reason, it feels like it's been a long time since we've had anything from Li Wen. Even though when you look at her timeline relative to everyone else, it's actually still there. Like, still pretty in the thick of things. Quote unquote, in the thick of things. Non-chronological timeline. It just feels like forever since we've heard from Li Wen. Saving Jack unlocked 2 more letters. I would hesitate to guess that it's Li Wen and Carlos, but I have supposedly learned my lesson about not guessing who those borders are anymore. So as promised, let's continue on with Kyungmin and Baekya. Kyungmin needs a gun! I need a gun! Sorry. And Baekya seems like he's still in the middle of whatever's going on with his escape with that muscular man. Let's begin. It was 10 p.m. There weren't many people in the station. I ran down to the basement, pushed open the door to the armory, and yelled, "Excuse me, I need to check out a handgun." I'd been assigned to this position for quite a few days, but I still hadn't received a firearm. I'd heard the office was very bureaucratic and inefficient. I suppose people had been telling me the truth. The custodian in charge of the armory slowly turned his face towards me. Looked like he hadn't shaved for his wrinkled face for a long time. All of his facial hair was wet with tears and snot. I noticed a TV behind him. He was watching a very popular TV drama, The Descendants. I had to speak at the top of my lungs to tell him that I needed a gun, trying not to be drowned out by the hysterically bawling heroine on the TV. I'm a little curious what The Descendants is. I will probably check after making this video. I don't really watch K-drama, but I'm wondering if I've heard of it. Because if you watch J-drama or Hong Kong dramas, or K-dramas, they all kind of intersect, but mostly K-dramas because K-drama is super popular. gets adapted quite a bit for other countries. Although he was still quite invested in the show, the old man still hadn't forgotten his duty. He then explained the rules while holding back his tears. To check out up to and including 2 guns, please fill out the green B2 form and have it signed by the lieutenant of your unit. The firearms will be available immediately. To check out more than 2 guns, please fill out the pink C-15 form and have it signed by the captain of the station. The weapons will be available in 5 hours. I took the form. That's gonna be problematic, because we need the guns to save our lieutenant. I tore the pink C-15 form into pieces. Really? Really, Gyeongmin? Sir, you've got to be kidding me. Oh, sir, you've got to be kidding me. 5 hours? It's really a matter of life or death. I just need a tiny, tiny, tiny handgun. I slammed my fist onto the desk out of frustration. Don't slam the desk. The custodian pulled 2 napkins out of a box, then blew his nose and wiped his tears away. He turned around and refocused on the TV screen, with the box of napkins still in his hand. The heroine had just been diagnosed with terminal. It's always a terminal illness in K-drama. It was the hero's turn to bawl hysterically. I squeezed the torn pieces of paper in my palm and tossed them into the trash bin by the door as I stormed out of the armory. I let out a sigh. Fine. It should be okay if I just go ahead without a gun, right? Yeah, I've got that little spear on a string wrapped around my wrist, right? I rushed out of the building, hailed a cab, and headed towards the port. Buddha would surely bless me. See, if this were... If this were a solo letter, I would think maybe we can switch these two. Maybe we can mess around with bureaucracy. But unfortunately, we do have the next letter. We have whatever is going on with Kang Baek-ya. So let's see how we can help them both. Gilman doesn't really need a gun. It was 5 past midnight. Warehouse 23, Port of Busan. I realized I'd been backed into a corner. Because the people who had come in from the gate were not Lieutenant Kim and Jung-ho and his men from Unit 3. Lieutenant Kang! Long time no see! It was my old rival, the leader of Gangmun Group, of the Musun Gang, Choi Yo-han. The drug cases around this area had always been handled by Unit 1 and my Unit 4. Drug smuggling was one of the main sources of income for the Musun Gang, so Choi and I had handled plenty of deals with each other. Long time no see. I did see your son a week ago. He looked pretty good. Oh, by the way, I heard that you've been in a bad mood recently. Would you like me to get you some antidepressants? That won't be necessary, but you were right. I haven't been doing so well. That's why I bought myself some new toys to cheer myself up. I want you to share the fun with me, Lieutenant Kang. This feels like really cheesy dialogue. Really cheesy movie dialogue. Who's got the Osmanthus cakes? that just going to continue? I believe that's just going to continue. Okay. Everything went quiet for a brief moment. Suddenly, a loud orchestra of metallic noise erupted in the warehouse. I could see that the containers were riddled with bullet holes. There was even rice pouring out of some of them. An M134. Chue-yo-han? That was indeed impressive. The M134 minigun is a rotary machine gun, with M134 being the version designated by the United States Army. Nicknamed Vulcan, its rate of fire can reach 6,000 rounds per minute, and its maximum firing range. I'm sorry, this bullet noise is really distracting. Its maximum firing range can reach 1 kilometer. It uses 7.62 by 51mm NATO ammunition and is capable of firing tracer or armor-piercing ammunition. While firing, its 6 barrels rotate, driven by an electric power source. Its multiple barrels allow for a greater capacity for a high firing rate, since the serial process of firing, extraction, loading is taking place in all barrels simultaneously, hence maintaining its firepower and range. The scaled-down variant of the XM134, XM214, fires the 5.56 by 45mm NATO round and can be operated solo by connecting the main switch and pressing on the trigger. Due to its size and weight, the posture of holding the gun more closely resembles one carrying it with both hands. It's not stopping! It's not stopping! He was my son. My lovely son. And you fucking blew off half of his head! Today, I'll blow your entire body into fucking smithereens! I crashed on the ground and covered my head with my hands. My Glock 43 had run out of ammo earlier. This couldn't get any worse. There was a toy gun on the ground. Where did the toy gun come from? A toy gun against an M134? I couldn't help but chuckle at the ridiculous thought. But apparently, someone else had come up with the same idea. The muscular man picked up the toy gun and came out from behind the containers. I didn't have a chance to stop him. Everything happened so fast. The toy gun couldn't possibly take on the M134. I saw numerous bullets fly into his body. The ground behind him was quickly covered in a bloody red mess. No! How did it end up like this? I don't ever expect the gang leaders to ever talk like a fucking Batman villain. Lieutenant Kang! Long time no see. But so something that was extrapolated on in the other endings that I did not show on the screen, or perhaps I did and I've since forgotten because my memory is very good these days, is that the muscular man is someone Kanbekya knows, and from his past, his mysterious past. And losing the muscular man reminds him of some terrible incident that happened 6 years ago. Was Unit 2 eradicated 6 years ago? Can't remember anymore. Anyway, we can tell that the best ending for Kanbekya is to save the muscular man, so let's get to it. Okay, so all of these are sequenced. And based off this being 2, this can only be moved here. And because this is an X on the right side, I'm guessing these can't be moved over to, yeah, they can't be moved over to Kang Vecchia side. Why would Kang Vecchia have to deal with bureaucracy? So basically there's only one thing we can do here. We give Young Min a toy gun. And so the muscular man does not pick up a toy gun and does not get blown to smithereens. Can I switch these two? I can switch those two. I don't think it matters, whatever order they're in. Yeah, that changes both of them. The machine gun slowly stopped, and I heard lots of people yelling outside. I peeked out to take a look. Some men from the Gangmun group were holding down a pretty buff young man, pressing his head to the ground. Gee, I wonder who that could be. His head was already covered with blood. Choi Yo-han grabbed his hair and pulled it back violently. I finally saw his face. Yo, if I remember correctly, isn't this the new guy in your unit, Lieutenant Kane? What a cute and silly one he is. He came all the way here to save his precious lieutenant without even bringing a gun. Who do you think is cuter, him or my son, Lieutenant Kang? Fuck you. The kid's nose and mouth were bleeding heavily, and he kept mumbling through the blood. Lieutenant, don't mind me. Choi fired up the machine gun once again. The kid's fragile flesh was torn to pieces and pounded into a stain on the ground. I didn't want to fucking mind you! What the fuck were you doing here? Didn't you know I meant to not fucking tell you about our mission at this goddamn place? You idiot! You didn't even bring a fucking gun! How would you defend your precious justice? Justice? What was the fucking point? Now that you're dead. I'm signed by the lieutenant of your unit. I looked down at the green B2 form in my hands. And I had an idea. The green B2 from in my hands. I'm sorry. Accuracy. Fuck accuracy. I clutched the form in my hand and ran back to Unit 4, stopping at the lieutenant's desk. I put my hand on the handle of the drawer. My heart was beating rapidly in my chest. This would be a huge mistake. Forging the signature. In all seriousness, this would be a crime. What the hell is wrong with me? Calm down and think. There must be another way. Speaking of which, I remembered seeing a toy gun on the custodian's desk earlier. I'm surprised that we're actually still getting like the rest of Gyeongmin's ending, considering that the game has shown us that he dies. Could that be useful? Something was definitely wrong with me. I let out a sigh. Fine. Should be okay if I just go ahead without a gun, right? I rushed out of the building, hailed a cab, and headed towards the port. Buddha would surely bless me. Buddha absolutely did not bless you. I'm not sure if there's anything else I can do here. I can't move these over for understandable reasons. This has to go after I took the form. And there's like nothing else. Unless we have to solve these two first. Let's take a quick look.
是不是我做错了什么？
Hey, Lee Wen's back!
Dios, ¿qué debería hacer?
As is Carlos. This is the first time we'll see Carlos since he... Ooh. Since he has met, what's-her-face? Whatever the girl that tried to scam his boss was. But yeah, we're basically at a dead end here. Nothing is locked. But I don't think I can actually do anything else with this. I can't move that over. I can't move this else up, and this was the original sequence of things. So I am probably going to have to figure something else out. And that will likely be Lee Wen and Carlos. Next time. For now, have a good night. Probably don't ever bring a toy gun to a minigun fight. And if you're a gang leader, remember all your dialogue has got to be cliché. Bonus points if you talk like a Batman villain. We'll see you next time.